Hello, Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi at Temple B'nai Israel, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm equally delighted, and even maybe more delighted, to introduce our first guest for this taping, the dynamic, the indefatigable Tracey Ward. For those of you who don't know Tracey, Tracey is the director of the Easton Economic Development Corporation, which is a group of very insightful, smart, visionary individuals. She leads us with great skill and accomplishment. Tracey, welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'll let you tell us about yourself. I'll let you do that.
Okay, thank you. It's great to be here today.
I'm thrilled to have you.
So tell about myself.
Yes.
I live in Royal Oak, and I'm the executive director of the EEDC, in short, and have a fantastic board of directors. I've been doing economic development for over 30 years, mostly in Baltimore City. I was also with Fannie Mae for a period of time. So I have lots of different kinds of experiences and just loving Easton.
Well, I'm delighted that you're here. I think, as you know, I am honored to be a part of the EEDC board. As I tell people, it is such a different world than the world I occupy normally, and with all the visionary, incredibly intelligent folk that are working to make this city and our area really dynamic and vital. And so thank you for the work you do, and thank you for the opportunity
thank you.
to piggyback on your shoulders and the shoulders of the very fine people on the board. Let's talk a little bit about the EEDC. Tell me what it is. Tell us what it is. What's the vision? What's the plan? How do you integrate into the community and all that sort of stuff?
Sure. So the EEDC was created in 2013. At that time, Easton was, and I would say the Eastern Shore in general, was feeling economically soft. There just wasn't a lot of business activity happening. We had come out of that terrible recession. Easton's economy tends to lag, and so we were not seeing the kind of business startups that you would see perhaps on the urban areas. And so some leaders, including Mike Menzies, who was the former CEO of Easton Bank and Trust, went and spoke with the mayor and said, we need to do something about this. We need to be engaged in economic development for the town of Easton. And so from that, the town of Easton and its elected officials created the Easton Economic Development Corporation, which essentially is a nonprofit organization. We are independent from the town of Easton, but we did get our seed funding and have continuously received funding from the town of Easton. And so we have a fantastic board of directors. One of the benefits of being a development corporation and a nonprofit is that we can really leverage the private sector. And so we've been able to 2.5 times the annual budget through grant dollars, through contributions from board members and others. And we've been able to advance projects that perhaps the town might not have been able to advance had not they had this kind of private-public partnership.
That's to me, as I sit on the board as a newcomer, that is so important. And the relationship that is created is cooperative as opposed to
absolutely,
tension-filled and combative.
Yes.
And I think I marvel at it, and the potential for good for all of us in the city is almost boundless. And I know there are some really important projects going on. One of them is Port Street. Would you tell us a little bit about that and
sure.
Fill us in, and how's it going, where's it going, when is it going?
Yes, well, big question.
Yeah.
So yes, the board was at its inception chaired by Herb Miller, who now is still on our board as chairman emeritus. And I mention him because Herb is a extraordinary visionary.
Indeed.
And so he really guided, and I think the board and the town got 100% behind the choice of working on Port Street, and it makes so much sense for Easton to do that. So Port Street, as many people know, goes from Washington Street all the way down to the Tracey River. And so at the point of the parkway, that is from the parkway east into the town, into the downtown, is the town of Easton. On the other side of the parkway, it's largely Talbot County. And so over the years, because the Easton Point side, the western side of the parkway on Port Street, is waterfront property, there's been a number of folks that have wanted to do redevelopment projects so that Easton can claim its waterfront like many
Sure.
cities and towns all across the world really have done. And so that makes a whole lot of sense, but you need to have a plan. And so one of the very first things that the EEDC did was got behind the town's efforts to create a master plan that would guide development along Port Street and on Easton Point. And so that's really what that project is about. It's about claiming our waterfront. It's about providing public access to our water. There are many people throughout all of Talbot County that don't even have access to the water at any given point.
Yeah.
So, and it's about connecting into our incredibly rich history here, as Port Street, over the history of Easton, has been so important.
That's, from my perspective, that's a huge piece of it.
Yes, absolutely.
But, and as they know this, as an Eagle Scout, as an old Boy Scout, the appropriate use and protection of our natural resources is important, but to be able to expose and to all of our citizens benefit from that is a really important thing as well.
It really is.
So I'm excited about that, and I really hope that we will move this forward, and there'll be really good things coming down Port Street for all of us. That's very cool. Tell me a little bit about Chesapeake Harvest. I know that you have background in, you've worked with farmers and farms, and you have that whole background that I don't know about. I grow tomatoes in the summer.
Wow, and that's actually not an easy thing to do, as we all, anybody that's tried to grow tomatoes knows.
I know.
So the other project that the EEDC took on was one that was started out as one thing and it has morphed into another. And what it has morphed into is Chesapeake Harvest, which really is about branding products that we grow and produce here on the Eastern Shore in such a way that they become desired in the marketplace. And as we look at what's happening with the farm-to-table table movement, particularly in the Western Shore and in the urban areas, people are willing to pay a premium if they know where the product has been grown and also how it was grown. And so our board wanted to basically position Easton in the center of this emerging local food economy, which is really taking the United States by storm and has been for years now. And so the Chesapeake Harvest project is really about marketing and branding our products from the Eastern Shore. And of course, we have staff here in Easton, and that's what they do. One of the most important things that we can do for our farms right now is help them prepare so that they can sell into the wholesale markets. Many of these farms are smaller and or don't have experience on how to do that. So we provide them information on packaging and how to package the product so that it can be sold in wholesale, or food safety requirements. So that's a large part of our project. But then there's some other things as well. We recently launched a starter plant project, which we're really excited about, with Homestead Gardens in Annapolis. And so we've got a number of things going on with Chesapeake Harvest.
Well, there's so many options for farmers around here, and for us to benefit from that. So this is exciting and very cool, and probably necessary in a lot of ways.
So one of the things that we found that we were surprised about is that it's very difficult to get locally produced products local. Like it actually takes an incredible amount of effort. So even if you go to some of the farm stands, they may have some products that are local, but then they might have a whole lot of other products that are not locally grown. And so what we're trying to do is really help bring those products now to us.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I mean,
so
that's. I don't know how many people recognize that. I didn't think I knew that. I figured when I went to a farm stand that I was getting all local produce, but I guess
unfortunately not the case.
That's really fascinating.
And it's an educational process.
Yeah. All right. Well, good for us. From your perspective, what's the economic future look like for us?
So Easton is definitely growing. We're seeing more activity than we've seen in a long time. We have been growing probably about 1% a year for like the last maybe 7-8 years, something like that. I don't want to be quoted on that, but it's been a very marginal growth. But we're starting to see a tremendous amount of activity, so that's a good thing. We personally, the Easton Economic Development Corporation, we're involved with some of that growth. We're working with a local business here in Easton that's going to be bringing 200 new employees to Easton, and those employees will be based in Easton, in the town limits, and those jobs will be, very high-paying jobs, or for this region, high-paying jobs. So we're with that kind of growth, we need to manage, and we need to have places to put people when they want to buy homes. And so I think we can expect over, say, the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of housing starts. And one of the things that we're going to want to do is ensure that that happens in a responsible way, so that we can protect what we love about this region.
Exactly.
And so that's a big part of the Port Street plan. Some of those units can go there. The town also has a very strong commitment to planning, and is planning everything within a green belt. And in fact, we'll be updating that master plan later this year. So we'll be keeping people posted about that.
Well, this is all really exciting. As I said, I'm delighted and honored to even get to sit at the table with all of you guys.
We're lucky to have you.
No. I'm not being falsely modest. I come out of those meetings, I go back and tell my secretary and others, I was so jazzed and so energized by all of this, because for me, it says that the future of the community in which I've invested myself is solid, it is strong, it is moving in the right direction, and knowing that those kinds of folk, Herb and others, who are, as you say, visionary and smart and dedicated to a vision for the community, makes me very happy. So thank you very much for being at the Rabbi's Roundtable.
Thank
you will come back.
Yes, I look forward to it.
We've been seated and talking with the dynamic, as I said, and the indefatigable Tracey Ward, who is the Executive Director of the Easton Economic Development Corporation. Thank you again for being here. Easton, we will be back. We will be back in 5 minutes.
We are MCTV, Midshore Community Television. We want your help in making our station more robust so that we can better serve the residents of Talbot County. So, how can you help? If you are already making video content, submit that content for broadcast to the station. It's free! Are you involved in events, shows, or lectures that would be of interest to the community? We can work with you to figure out the best way to capture those events for airing on MCTV, be it training, equipment rental, or hiring our production staff to film at a reasonable rate. Do you want to produce your own show? Let us help you get started. Come be a part of this valuable community resource. Email the station at nick@avalonfoundation.org or visit us in the basement of the historic Avalon Theater at 40 East Dover Street in downtown Easton.
And we are back. And welcome again to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi of Temple B'nai Israel, and we are coming to you from the studios of MCTV in the basement of the Avalon Theater. And those of you who watch regularly, you know that from time to time we have candidates who are running for office. We invite them to the Rabbi's Roundtable. All candidates are welcome. They just need to get in touch with me or with folk from MCTV, and we'll be glad to interview them. I think there's a responsibility here that I have as somebody fortunate enough to do this kind of programming, to introduce them to the community and have a chance to engage in discussion and learn about their theories, their thoughts, their philosophies, and their approach to the political system. This is now the case with my next guest, who is not a stranger to the Rabbis Roundtable. It's my pleasure to welcome Jesse Colvin back to the Rabbis Roundtable. Hi, Jess. And Jesse is running for Congress from the 1st District. Glad you're back, and let's talk a little bit.
Thank you for having us back.
Oh, no, my pleasure. As I said, I feel it's a responsibility to whoever wants to come on and have this opportunity to interact with the community. We will make it happen. So, let me ask you this first question.
Sure.
What's it like? Your background is very impressive, by the way. I should tell people that you are a Duke graduate.
I try not to mention that.
No, my nephew is a Duke. The Blue Devils go.
Sure.
No, that's fine. And you have a master's from Columbia.
I do, yeah.
And that you were served with great distinction in the Army Intelligence Corps.
I was an intelligence officer in the Army Rangers.
And that's right, the Rangers. And so thank you for your service, and it's very impressive. So, what's it like for somebody like, it says here, an average normal person entering into the world of politics? I love that question.
Okay.
How are you finding it? What's going on?
There's been some surreal moments. Healthcare is one of the biggest issues of the campaign,
Sure.
so I've gone out to meet with as many experts as I can. So I got a chance to tour a hospital in Baltimore County in the Western Shore where I was born. So to come in as a political candidate with the CEO and the leadership team and do rounds.
That's funny.
That was surreal. I did an internship at high school at the Baltimore Sun newspaper. And when I left that building, coming back in, I never thought I'd be coming back in, much less as a candidate
Sure.
for Maryland's 1st congressional district. So that was a surreal. But I mean,
It's got to be emotional. I mean, those were places that hospitals where you were born, and
where I was born.
you learned stuff at the paper.
Most of it is this job I'm learning is much like any other job. Be nice to everybody. Relationships, work your tail off. There are moments punctuated by the responsibility that I think comes with this job if it's done right.
Certainly.
In part of my stump speech, I mentioned post-traumatic stress because we lose 22 military veterans a day to suicide. Also, my wife runs a nonprofit to prevent military veteran suicide. I've had some folks approach me after the meeting and say, "Hey, I need help. I'm struggling with this myself." That's been very serious. I can't tell you the number of folks I've met in your generation who are raising kids. That the opioids epidemic, that middle generation is just gone. So that's it's surrealness, and that's punctuated by some very serious moments of responsibility.
You just mentioned the opioid crisis. I've had our sheriff, who is a dynamic and great. We're fortunate to have Joe Gamble as our sheriff. Purple Month.
Yeah.
And when he first spoke those and shared those statistics, I'm not often speechless. I was dumbfounded.
Yeah.
This goes way beyond any political lines. This is a cultural and a societal issue that needs to be addressed on a lot of levels.
The fatalities in this congressional district. This congressional district encompasses all of the Maryland Eastern Shore and then 3 counties north of Baltimore City. 50% higher. The fatality rate is 50% higher than the national average. It's bad.
I know that. The statistics are breathtakingly stunning.
I used to go into living rooms and ask, "Hey, by a show of hands, who's been personally impacted by the epidemic, or do you know somebody?" I've long since stopped asking because the answer is everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
It's Andy, I don't want to.
No, it's fine. It's important.
Yes, it is important.
It's one of the reasons that's part of our platform, but we'll get to that in a second.
Good, okay. So, as long as you're talking about the platform, I didn't mean to jump into it. But yeah, what do you think are the most crucial issues that you will face if you win, and that are facing our leaders today?
Oh, sure. Well, when I meet people, I generally ask, what are your issues? What do you care about? And how much trust do you have in Congress? the answer to the last question is sad because the answer is very little. What I hear on the campaign trail, I hear and see is, and we're in Easton. This place is a great place to raise a family, a great place to raise kids and grandkids, but we got to give them reasons to stay.
Right.
And we've got to address the issues that stand between them continuing this great way of life. So we mentioned the opioids crisis, the jobs. There are. We need to do a better job of creating employment opportunities and jobs for reasons to not have to cross the Bay Bridge. Healthcare. There are 54,000 people in this congressional district who are dependent on the ACA. The guy I'm running against is trying to sweep it away with no backup plan. That has to be addressed. Healthcare is a right, plain and simple. The ACA is a great step forward. We have a ways to go, but just to go backwards. And then Chesapeake Bay. I like to use a 6 a.m. example. So at sunrise, watermen are out getting the boats ready. If you're a hunter, you're in the blind. If you're an artist, you're capturing sunrise. You're out there. Everybody loves the Bay. There are 535 people in Congress. What I hear is the member of Congress who should be the biggest defender of the Bay, supporter of the Bay, advocate for the Bay, ought to be the representative from Maryland's First. So those are the 4 things I hear. We have a great way of life, but we need help right now with healthcare to address the opioid epidemic, jobs, and the Bay.
Those are. It's all about maintaining the quality and kind of lifestyle that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And if any one of those is diminished, that affects all of us.
It does. So that's why my platform is directly trying to address all those issues. So jobs. We talk about jobs of the future. There's no reason Chesapeake College can't have one of the state's or country's best solar programs. So imagine you go to school for 2 years, you come out, you can sell a panel, you can install it, you can fix it. Fastest growing industries in the country, one of the fastest in the state. There's no reason we can't do that here. Cybersecurity. That's
huge.
It's huge now. It's going to continue to get bigger in the future. Every one of our 2 and 4 year schools could have great programs. Aberdeen Proving Grounds is just across the congressional district.
I know.
Fort Meade is in the state. Wallops Island is just across the state line. Warwick Community College in Lower Shore. This is where they want to launch rockets.
Yeah.
The folks coding the software for those rockets are going to come from Harvard and Carnegie Mellon. The other 99% of those jobs is part of that operation. There's no reason Warwick couldn't be a feeder for those projects. Soft engineering, hard engineering. And then all that needs to come on the back of connectivity. We have a broadband issue in this district, particularly in the shore, particularly in rural areas. You can't, if you care about your kids doing homework at home, it's 2018, they need high-speed internet. If you care about entrepreneurs creating jobs, they need high-speed internet.
Why is there, or have you seen a pushback to this kind of progress, or is it an attitude, or why aren't we moving where we need to move when it seems to me so obvious?
Yeah, no, I think that's the right question to ask. I can tell you about the current representative.
Okay.
So 2 months ago, he and 4 other members of Congress made a meeting to meet with a political party in Prague, in the Czech Republic, to meet with a political party who has publicly called for the extermination of gays and Jews and Roma. Lately, around the same time, he sent a letter to all of his his colleagues in the House, calling for the cutting of independent. The State Department gives funding to media in Hungary. We have a dictatorship happening in Budapest. It's Putin's man in Budapest. He's focused on making sure that that would-be dictator doesn't receive criticism by the press. We need a healthy press. That's what a healthy democracy has. Roy Moore was brought in last fall for a fundraiser under the cover of night. So that's it's just a question of focus. So when you're we're asking folks to recognize that this job ultimately comes into leadership. This job is about leadership and results. So if you're focused on those things as opposed to broadband or putting a dent into the opioids epidemic, I think that's how you end up in a place like this.
Kind of breathtaking at times. So
people are angry. People are very left, right, and center when it comes to Washington and Congress. Folks are angry at career politicians who seem to be about putting their own careers first and whatever the party bosses want first and just accruing personal power, as opposed to how does that fly by the values of the constituents or what's in the best interest of the country.
So how do you see yourself being different from the politicians we have now?
That's a good question. Well, first thing is I've never done politics before. I did 4 combat deployments in Afghanistan
Right.
as a ranger. I helped fight.
What was your rank, by the way?
I got out as a captain.
You got out as a captain, so you had some authority.
It was a good place to be. You had just enough authority that you were at an outstation or
Yeah.
a base far away from the flagpole.
Yeah.
I had some seniority, but not so much rank that you couldn't have real relationships with the enlisted guys.
Yeah, very cool.
And so that's part of it. Part of it is I don't look and talk like a politician. I think people can see everybody's BS beater. I think left, right, and center is very attuned. So when you sound like a politician, there's an authenticity and a genuineness that I think people are starving for. Also, just have a good head on your shoulders. What I've pledged, if you go to my website, you'll see the 2 questions I pledged to ask if any bill crosses my desk. How does it align with the values of the constituents in our district? How does it align with the interests of our country? Those are 2 great questions that I think every congressman should be asking. I just don't think it's happening.
Well, that's as a citizen and as somebody who's I've never been in politics like this, but
Sure.
But those are important questions, and those are crucial questions that again speak to not only who we are but how we are.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, why do you think you can beat Andy Harris?
Oh, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
So the race is definitely winnable. The time is now. I'm the guy to do it, and here's why. So when I first called the National Party, I'm a Democrat. I'm a very proud Democrat. I called the National Party, and we've experienced this gerrymander in 2011, and this district had, from the perspective of Washington, just long since been forgotten. And I said, hey, I'm running in Maryland's first congressional district. They said, great. They weren't quite looking for the map in the drawer, but you could kind of tell they were. And then I was at this event at the national headquarters, and they fly in all these candidates. It's like a cocktail party on steroids, a lot of type A candidates. So the chairman of the National Party said, you have 10 seconds, give me your elevator pitch. I said, okay, I'm a 4th generation Marylander, I'm an Army Ranger, I'm a very proud Democrat, my wife's a Republican, I'm running against Andy Harris. And he chuckled, he said, all right, there's a lot happening in that sense, so come have a meeting. And he started the meeting by saying, we're not meeting with a candidate in a district that's red by a long shot, but we think you have a great story, and we recognize that from Washington, we now understand that what it looks like on the ground, we need to do a better job of understanding what's viable and what's not. But you gotta go show us you're serious. So we've been working our tails off. I have a used truck for the campaign. We're doing about 500 miles a week on it. I have my dog with me most of the time, so she's doing about 400 miles.
Yeah.
But we outraised. The best measure, unfortunately, of a campaign before the actual votes is fundraising. So we actually outraised Andy Harris in our first quarter of campaigning, last quarter, and that turned all sorts of heads. So the National Party has added this district, this race, to its list of 101 districts across the country it considers in play for 2018. So we've gone from off the map to on it, and we're just working hard.
Wow. It's a challenge. All politics is challenge. I appreciate you taking the time to share your views with the viewers at MCTV. And as always, we wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
Jesse, thanks for being
back
at the Rabbi's Roundtable. We've been speaking with Jesse Colvin, who is a candidate for Congress from the 1st District. And there'll be more than follow-ups, and we'll see where it goes.
I'd love to be. Can I bring the dog back?
Oh, you can absolutely. I'll interview the dog.
Sure.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I have no problem. Anyway, Easton, you've been seated at the Rabbi's Roundtable. I think this has been an exceptionally fine 2 interviews. I'm grateful both to Tracey Ward and to Jesse Colvin. We will see you next time on the Rabbi's Roundtable.